It's all too familiar to police, fire and ambulance officers and local tow truck operators. One driver loses control on a corner and then swerves to the wrong side of the road, collecting an oncoming car. Fortunately, in this crash, the occupants suffered little more than shock, but their cars, an older Nissan and a brand new Daewoo, were written off. The force of the nose-to-nose impact was obvious. That no injuries resulted is proof that modern vehicle design and seatbelts do make a difference. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
Celebrating its second Christmas and first big win, the Lower Hunter Health Council announced today that it has gained funding for a transport officer. The council, made up of community representatives, attempts to make sure that people have a say in the provision of health services. Surveys conducted throughout the Hunter found the biggest barrier people had in reaching treatment was transport.
It's not just catching a bus or catching a train. Some people are housebound, they may not be involved with a carers group. How do we get them to the podiatrist, to the doctor, to the dentist, to any clinic that they may need to go to? They may need to go to a hearing clinic, to the optometrist, to the hospital. Not only to get to the hospital themselves, but to perhaps visit somebody.
After starting out a pub crawl by 6 friends, the Santa Crawl has become a Newcastle tradition. It's now even mentioned in international backpackers magazines. This Friday night, up to 6,000 revellers are expected to assemble for the alcohol-fuelled wander through the beachside suburb of Merewether.
They could present a major problem, but history, insofar as we're concerned, is that those Santas have really conducted themselves in a responsible fashion.
After a series of meetings, police today held a final briefing with representatives from the City Council and the pubs and clubs along the revellers' route. Licensees have been told if they intend to serve alcohol outside their premises, they will need to apply for special licences. Police say the liquor laws will be strictly enforced. Police are treating Friday night as a special operation.
We'll have the police caravans along the route. Police will travel with the Santas, as well as additional security who've been funded by the local licensees to mix and mingle with the crowd to ensure that things are safe.
Newcastle Council is also being asked to play its part by providing portaloos along the route and extra bins for cans and bottles. Phil Hind, NBN News.
It was far from a dog's life for these lucky poochers today, the first to test the council's leash-free areas. 5 have been set up at different park locations around Newcastle, allowing dogs to roam freely within the law. Complaints against dogs are amongst the most common grievances put to council. It's hoped this initiative will reduce these complaints.
A lot of the complaints that come to council are the result of dog management and dog behaviour, and so I think it'll take the heat out of that situation.
For those ratepayers worried about stepping in dogs' droppings, the areas come with pooch patches. The leash-free areas are also popular with dog owners.
They love it. Yes, they love to be able to run and chase balls and not be tied up all the time.
But wayward canines best beware. The dog catcher is always around the corner.
The past has been distilled through the lens of Max Dupain. His images of Port and its winemaking history capture the essence of life on the land during the 1950s.
This particular photograph shows the contrast between yesterday in the wineries as opposed to today.
Winemaker Ken Sloan has combined the historic collection with some of his own work, offering visitors a drop of Chardonnay as they view the past. 27 prints have been reproduced from the original Dupain negatives. Rustic timber sheds and men working the wine presses are a feature.
They're quite interesting, those photos, because they show up the difference between the viticulture and winemaking techniques of yesterday and today.
The exhibition will continue at the Mistletoe Winery until the end of January. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
The fire started at around 6:30 at the back of the Cattle Dog clothing store in the main street, the flames quickly spreading to other buildings. A Moolumbar fire crew preparing for a training session in the area spotted the blaze and was there within minutes. Crews were also called in from Kingscliff, Lismore and Tweed Heads to help fight the flames. Residents also pitched in, ignoring the rain to help remove goods from shops to prevent further damage. Among the worst hit, the Video Easy store, suffering from smoke and heat as well as extensive water damage. A dry cleaning store, cafe and bookshop were also badly damaged. Other nearby shop owners were meanwhile counting their blessings.
One of the lucky ones, yeah? One shop away.
The blaze took more than 2 hours to control. It's believed the quick response of fire crews and the persistent rain were the only things that stopped it destroying the whole main street.
The Hunter's wine industry is worth $300 million to the region each year. Growers are worried that next year's crop could be under threat if a deadly insect spreading through Camden near Sydney is introduced.
It would be devastating over a period of 5 to 10 years because it gradually debilitates the vine's capacity to be able to produce economically.
The phylloxera insect attacks the roots of a vine, sapping the nutrients from the plant. There is no treatment available.
The insect has wiped out several wine-producing areas around the world. Earlier this century in Victoria, the wine industry was devastated by the tiny bug.
The Department of Agriculture and local wine growers have erected 6 signs in the region, trying to stop visitors from bringing any foreign grape material into the area.
So the problem has been contained to a certain extent. The Hunter is free of it. We feel that with the department and the industry working closely together, that we can continue the public awareness campaign.
We just want to protect what our forebears and ourselves have actually put in the ground.
Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
Composite material technology is best known for the advances it's made in aircraft, but the multi-fibred products, which includes plastics, carbon fibre and other artificial materials, have far wider uses, including the hulls of ships. The federal government is so confident about the technology's future, it's just granted $20 million to a consortium of 10 research groups.
At the end of the 7 years, we expect that there will be a vibrant, internationally competitive industry in fibre reinforced materials.
The research will be divided between Sydney, Melbourne and Newcastle, with local industries to play a vital role in developments. Newcastle's train manufacturer Gunninan is just one company that's looking at composite materials to replace or supplement existing technologies.
Obviously they make railway rolling stock and they're interested in reducing weight, reducing corrosion, reducing maintenance, and fibre reinforced materials have a lot of potential to help improve with those problems.
And with a bit of luck, they may just produce the material that the next stage is known by. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The festival will centre in and around the harbour. While Sydney may be Australia's historical maritime home, Newcastle is now the country's busiest port. The festival will evolve from the annual Newcastle Regatta to become the city's signature event to the outside world.
It needs events to tag the city, to give an image of the city which is more complex than the one that is currently promoted outside of the region.
Among the program highlights, visits by tall ships, a tugboat ballet, a water ski spectacular and historic sail pasts. On land there'll be concerts, a food and wine fair and workshops on building boats both big and small. All proceeds will go to the Newcastle Maritime Museum at Fort Scratchley. The money will allow the museum to better preserve the region's rich maritime heritage.
5,000 artefacts will be assessed individually in 1997. They'll be put onto a database, and also in 1997, towards the end of the year, we'll be looking at the climatic conditions within the museum and looking at redesigning all of our display areas.
The Maritime Festival will be staged the first weekend in February. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Maureen Steele's been behind the bar at the Albion Hotel for as long as anybody can remember. She started pulling beers more than 4 decades ago, the last 20 years spent here. Today's relaxed atmosphere a far cry from the rowdy 70s, when wharfies, sailors and locals guzzled through 18 kegs on a Friday night.
Oh, you couldn't get in here. It used to be packed out. We'd go on the footpath to have a drink.
It may not be as crowded, but the customers are as happy as ever with Maureen behind the bar. The veteran even giving some tips for those thinking of following in her footsteps.
Oh, you just keep working, please your customers and pour your drinks and mind your own business.
But the last word belongs to Maureen.
One of the best in her trade as a barmaid or now bar person.
Staff morale at the university is slowly improving with the appointment of Interim Vice-Chancellor Professor Malcolm Nan, who has the job of propelling UNE in the right direction.
It's been called the sleeping giant of the Hunter Valley. 280 million tonnes of coal buried close to the surface just west of Muswellbrook. And investors are wide awake with interest following the state government's decision to sell the North Mount Arthur seam.
But already there are 19 who've shown interest in the mine. It will grow and the tenders will open in February and close in October 97.
That gives companies plenty of time to save the expected $40 million asking price. The state government will also receive annual royalties of $10 million. 6 million tonnes of coal will be dug up a year, even more than the Bengalla mine just north of the town, where early drilling has just started. The state government has given the sale top priority, with either the Premier, the Treasurer or the Minister to visit Taiwan and Japan next year to promote the sell-off. Muswellbrook has welcomed the move and the 1,000 jobs that go with it. The sale will mean the town is surrounded by coal mines by the turn of the century, and the state government has commissioned a report into the effects on Muswellbrook.
I believe that there is certainly a point when the cumulative impact would be unsustainable.
The mine should be up and running by the year 2001. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Using a $3 million grant from the Better Cities program, the Honeysuckle development will transform the former Woolshed site into this. The Hannell Street project will build 31 home units for people who can't afford a home of their own.
It's actually housing that's targeted towards people who are on low incomes but who fall outside of the means test, if you like, for public housing under the Department of Housing guidelines.
Along with the affordable housing units, the Honeysuckle development is looking for private sector investment to build another 44 privately owned units on the site. The public housing has been designed to be in keeping with the concept for the rest of the development.
It's certainly important for this precinct because it's the first catalyst that will obviously encourage private sector development for the remainder of the precinct over the next few years.
Honeysuckle expects to call tenders for the work by March.
Things have come full circle for Michael Hill. In 1992-93, he was the Knights chairman. At the club's annual general meeting last night, Hill was again elected to the position, replacing outgoing chairman Terry Lawler. It's a different set of circumstances for Hill this time around. He's now at the helm of a club with a local opposition, the Hunter Mariners. It's a challenge he's looking forward to as the Knights enter their 10th year in the ARL.
The problem we have now is that there's someone else competing out in the workplace. They're competing for the people who we thought before would come to us as a matter of course. Now we've got to make them want to come and see us play.
And he says the best way to harness support is simple.
The easiest and best way is to be successful on the park. We win 3 games in a row. That's the best marketing we can do. Short of that, I think the people of Newcastle will support the Knights. They've proved in the past they will, provided they're satisfied that the Knights are giving 100%.
Meanwhile, Knights players Andrew Johns and Bill Peden are refusing to comment on fines imposed for not wearing players' formal wear at a press conference last week. Club management says the players have to understand their commitments as professional footballers. Blake Doyle, NBN News. A Christmas cruise came to an abrupt end last night when the 13-metre Pelican Princess started taking water in Empire Bay near Woy Woy. Its skipper turned the boat around soon after leaving the wharf and managed to steer alongside another moored vessel. Passengers were transferred onto the second boat at Empire Bay Wharf before the Pelican Princess sank in 6 metres of water. No one was injured. Today, a crane was brought to raise the ferry from the floor of the bay, while firemen laid out booms to contain any fuel spills.
Is there any idea what caused the boat to sink at all? No, not at this stage. We have an unknown leak somewhere on the vessel, so we hope to find that pretty soon.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
In the past 5 years, 8 people have died and 24 have been seriously injured on the notorious section. In the space of a few kilometres, there are more than 60 bends, making it one of the most hazardous stretches of highway in the country. After promises by successive governments, both state and federal, today there was a symbolic start to work, with the announcement that construction giant Thiess has won the $193 million contract to build a new deviation.
I believe, with the number of people that have been killed and seriously injured on this road over the years, that even if it was open tomorrow, it'd be too late.
The new section will be to the east of the existing highway and will be a 4-lane divided dual carriageway. Motorists won't see the benefit of the new work for several years. As a completely new section of highway, it won't be open to traffic until it's completed. That's scheduled to be sometime in the year 2000. The contract is also good news for the small community of Bulahdelah, hard hit by recent changes to the timber industry. Its mills will take trees felled to make way for the road, while local businesses also plan to capitalise.
The amount of people working here will be living in town, using our supermarkets, our hardware stores, all our facilities. So we're very, very excited.
Construction work is expected to begin in late January. Phil Hind, NBN News.
The mangled wreck told a story of excessive speed and violent impact. The two 20-year-old men were heading home along the Mungo Brush Road after a day at the local regatta.
The only way that we can establish how long ago that the vehicle's happened is that we've located the engine to the vehicle some 50 metres away from where the motor vehicle's stopped, and it's cold.
The driver lost control while negotiating a right-hand bend 15 kilometres north of Hawk's Nest. The Holden ute skidded and careered into thick bushland before overturning. The men were not wearing seat belts. 2
of the occupants were thrown clear of the vehicle. One, it's obvious, has died on impact, and the other fellow is suffering from head injuries at the moment.
The Westpac rescue helicopter airlifted the man to the John Hunter Hospital. It's the first fatality to be recorded in the Hunter during the Christmas break.
Something like this that have involved some local kids, it's terribly hard, not only on the family but the community as well.
The second man remains in a serious but stable condition in the John Hunter Hospital. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
The leaders were reported off Seal Rocks late this morning in very light 3 to 4 knot winds after setting off from Pittwater at 1 p.m. yesterday. The unfavourable weather conditions mean the race record set by the office in 1984 is in no danger of being broken.
That race record's 20 hours, 56 minutes and 56 seconds. That's gone well but by the wayside because the race started yesterday at 1 p.m.
At last report, Sydney yacht Ragamuffin led the field by 50 minutes from Coffs Harbour entrant Rager, which is expected to challenge for line honours if the predicted strong southerly wind hits this evening.
They were predicting later this afternoon that the wind would go around to the southwest, in which case the boats will have the wind from behind and they'll set spinnakers. If that happens, it'll make the race a lot faster, and you may even see Rager come across that line first early tomorrow morning or maybe late into tonight.
The Yanks came to Newcastle keen to avenge last year's Test loss, and things weren't to go their way. The Americans and Aussies were level pegging in the first round, but the locals shot to a healthy 10-point lead going into the second round. High drama surrounded the Australian camp. Alan Baker forced to pull out because of mechanical problems.
Carrick came back at him. Oh, this is what we like to see.
Replacement Robert Carrick filled the role, scoring 10 of the Aussies' 45 points. But it was to be the Australian team's night, winning convincingly 45-27. The second test will be raced on New Year's Day.
And believe it or not, it paid more for the place than what it did the win. $140 and $150 for Franco Lotsmore. Colonial Sea returned $270 and Brayson Kidd $11.70. The Quinella $8.40 and the Trifecta $340, $130. Race 7 was over the same distance. $3, $4 and $2, $2.90 and $1.60, $1.70 and $3. The Quinella $15.30 and the Trifecta $110.70.
Rain wasn't enough to stop workmen erecting stages on Newcastle's foreshore today. The area has become the traditional gathering place for New Year revellers. Last year's countdown to 1996 went off without a hitch, with police praising the crowd for its good behaviour. Another large crowd is expected this year, and police will be out in force to deal with any problems.
We'll have general duties police, highway patrol police, and some transit police patrolling the buses as well as the foreshore area.
Police will be maintaining a high profile, but are asking revellers to cooperate.
We're just asking everyone to come into the town, have a good time, but just take it steady, don't consume large amounts of alcohol, and just try and curb the behaviour.
Police will be closing roads to cater for an influx of people. The northern end of Wharf Road will be closed, while Watt Street will be closed to traffic from Scott Street to Wharf Road. Five brothels already operate in the West End, but it's the latest proposal that's angered the area's retailers. The brothel includes 6 bedrooms, 2 party rooms and a theatre for live shows. West End retailers met today to unite against the proposal, learning that another application for a brothel is being considered by council.
We believe this is just totally unacceptable, and it's lowering the standards of this community and not raising the standards, which is our objective.
Residents are also up in arms. They say the pleasure centre will be just 20 metres from their doorsteps.
Council's got a draft policy that says the brothel should be 100 metres from the entrance to a unit. It's less than 50 metres to the door to my flat. And I'm wondering why it's going ahead. Council wants people living above shops. I'm here, I've been here 11 years, and now they want to drive me out.
The man behind the proposal fronted today's meeting, assuring those concerned the brothel will be discreet. Council now has the job of deciding on the brothel's fate.
They're going to happen in Newcastle. The Newcastle CBD is the more obvious place for them to occur.
Opponents have until the end of next week to lodge objections. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
7 babies were born at John Hunter Hospital this morning, including the state's first set of twins. In a rush to see the world, little Caitlin and Sophie Baxter surprised their parents, arriving a week early. After a few long hours, Sally Ann and John Baxter had 2 precious faces to admire. Although it wasn't easy, it was all worth it.
I don't think you'd ever say it's easy, but I'm just so happy to have them here with me.
It's the time of year when many people are out to wet a line. 1/3 of Australia's population fishes at least once a year. But recent surveys have indicated that fish stocks may be under too much pressure, both from commercial fishing and now from what's been regarded as a great Aussie pastime.
It's one fish stock. It's under a lot of pressure from 2.5 million recreational fishers and 1,981 commercial fishers. And the best way to manage that is to protect the breeding grounds, the nursery areas, the critical habitat.
Commercial and recreational groups too are recognising the need for greater cooperation to preserve stocks.
Instead of having that sort of a bag limit, we should have a bag limit whereby each fisher is entitled to catch, we'll say, 10 fish.
We've now capped the number of commercial licences in the state. In 1997, we'll be totally overhauling the laws for commercial and recreational fishing. The recreational fishing, we'll look at the bag limits, the size limits, where we can and can't fish, so that the fish will have a fair go to breed and build up the numbers.